He stood in the grand lobby of the Crescent Hotel, a place where elegance dripped from every corner. The chandeliers sparkled above him, casting shimmering light on polished marble floors. The air smelled of freshly bloomed orchids mixed with a hint of polished wood. But amidst this beauty, Daniel felt an unsettling weight in his chest. It had been months since life had turned upside down, a swiftness that felt like falling without a net. He had lost his job in marketing, a career he had poured his heart into for nearly a decade. Just the thought of it made his stomach twist. He had bills piling up and doubts gnawing at him day and night. He felt the weight of the world pressing down, heavy and unyielding. Just then he shifted his gaze to a young bellhop. The young man wore a crisp red uniform, a bright smile on his face that radiated warmth. The bellhop caught Daniel's eye, and for a moment there was a flicker of understanding, as if they were connected by an invisible thread. "Excuse me," Daniel said, gathering what little courage he had. But the words stuck in his throat. He didn't really know what to ask. Help with his luggage, a room to call his own, a way to escape the tight grip of despair. The bellhop, sensing Daniel's awkwardness, took a step closer. He asked, his voice smooth and gentle. Daniel took a breath, shifting his feet, feeling the weight of indecision. "I'm looking for a place to stay, somewhere." The bellhop's smile widened, lighting up his youthful features. "Of course, sir, we have accommodation options that are perfect for reflection." As they walked towards the elevators, Daniel caught a glimpse of himself in a gilded mirror. The man staring back seemed foreign, a shadow of who he used to be. He brushed a hand through his disheveled hair, trying to shake off the unsettling image. Upon reaching the elevator, the bellhop pressed the button and turned to Daniel. "You're going to love it here." There was something genuine in the bellhop's voice, a sincerity that seemed to reach out and pull Daniel from his turmoil, even for just a moment. The elevator door slid open, and Daniel stepped inside, feeling the gentle hum of the machinery. The bellhop followed, pressing the button for the penthouse floor. As the elevator began its ascent, Daniel's mind raced. What did he even want anymore? The dreams he once chased felt so distant now, like whispers in the wind. As the floors ticked by, the weight in his chest grew heavier. His heart thumped against his ribcage, fear intertwining with desperation. Eventually, the elevator chimed, and the doors opened to reveal a stunning hallway lined with thick carpeting. The bellhop stepped out, gesturing for Daniel to follow him. "This way, sir," he said, his voice carrying a soothing rhythm. They reached a door adorned with a golden number. The bellhop used a keycard to unlock it, and as the door swung open, Daniel entered. The room was breathtaking, a vast space filled with natural light. Floor-to-ceiling windows displayed a breathtaking view of the city, sparkling like jewels against the deepening blue sky. Yet even amidst the luxury, Daniel felt adrift, sensing the hollow pit of hopelessness inside him. The bellhop asked, standing in the doorway, his posture rigid yet warm. Daniel hesitated. He finally asked, his voice barely a whisper. The bellhop's smile faded, his eyes conveyed a deep understanding, a quiet empathy. Sometimes people carry more than they show on the surface. Daniel's heart skipped a beat. Was it possible this young man could see right through him? I lost my job," Daniel admitted, his voice catching slightly. The bellhop nodded, a look of compassion washing over his face. "I understand, I used to feel lost too." His voice blended sympathy and encouragement. Something about the young man's words struck a chord within Daniel. The bellhop stepped into the room, crossing his arms thoughtfully. "I used to be down, feeling like my dreams were out of reach. I took a job here, and at first I thought it was just to pay the bills. But then I realized that every interaction, every person I met could teach me something." Daniel leaned against the wall, allowing the bellhop's sincerity to seep into his weary soul. "So this job," the bellhop smiled again, his confidence shining through. "It built me. I learned to smile even when I felt low. I learned that it's okay to ask." A warmth spread through Daniel. He could feel the fading darkness around him. "But it's so hard to reach out," he confessed. "They might," the bellhop said honestly, "but most of the time they won't. People are kinder than we think. When I salute a guest, I remind myself that I'm part of their journey, even if just for a moment." That thought settled over Daniel like a soft blanket, wrapping him in comfort. "You're right," he murmured. "It's like..." The bellhop nodded proudly. "Exactly. Sometimes it can feel like you're fighting a battle alone, but you don't have to. There's energy in sharing our struggles." Daniel's resolve began to rise within him. He took a deep breath, allowing a sense of hope to fill the empty spaces within. "Do you know what?" A spark of excitement lit up the bellhop's eyes. "That's the spirit. Every day is a new opportunity." A smile crept onto Daniel's face, tentative but growing stronger. "Then let's change that," the bellhop said, grinning back at him. With that, they stepped out into the hallway, Daniel feeling a newfound lightness in his step. The bellhop led the way, guiding him through the vibrant hotel down to the bustling streets below. As they walked, they passed by a small cafe filled with laughter and chatter. The aroma of freshly brewed coffee filled the air. The bellhop stopped, gesturing for Daniel to follow. They ordered 2 cups of coffee, and as they waited, Daniel felt the familiar pull of anxiety creeping in. He asked the bellhop, his voice barely above a whisper. The young man shrugged, a playful look in his eye. "What if you fly? Failure is just part of the ride." "Wow, you really have a way with words," Daniel replied, admiring the confidence radiating from the bellhop. They took their steaming mugs and found a small table outside. Daniel looked around, observing the world move around him, the laughter, the chatter, the little things that made life beautiful. "I can't believe I almost didn't ask for help," Daniel said, sipping the warm coffee. "This feels, it is," the bellhop agreed, his gaze focused on Daniel. "Imagine if everyone felt comfortable sharing their struggles." As the sun began to set, washing the sky in shades of lavender and orange, Daniel found himself laughing a sound he hadn't heard in ages. Hope revitalized him, sparking a desire to rise above the shadows that haunted him. "Let's walk again," he said, his voice stronger now, filled with intention. The bellhop's eyes twinkled with approval. "That's the attitude." Together they strolled through the vibrant streets, encountering all kinds of people, families, young couples, artists painting on sidewalks. Daniel felt himself immersing in the world around him, finally remembering the excitement of connection. As the stars began to twinkle overhead, he could feel a shift within himself. The burden of despair wasn't gone, but it no longer towered over him. The bellhop smiled, pride gleaming in his eyes. "That's what it's all about. Every encounter matters." As they waved goodbye, Daniel felt something different, a lightness that clung to his heart, unfurling hope. "Thank you," he said sincerely, clasping the bellhop's shoulder. The bellhop returned the gesture with a firm salute, a playful grin returning to his face. "Anytime, sir." As Daniel walked away, the bellhop's smile lingered in his mind. And in that moment, he realized something powerful. He was ready to face the challenges ahead. No longer afraid to reach out, he stepped forward into a world filled with possibilities, a journey ahead not only for himself but for all who dared to connect. In the heart of the bustling city, Daniel found himself standing in front of the grand Crescent Hotel, its ornate facade gleaming in the late afternoon sun. People flowed in and out like rivers, laughter spilling from the open doors, but he felt distant from it all. He was an island, lost amidst the tide of life. As he stepped through the towering entrance, the sense of fresh flowers and polished wood washed over him. The lobby was a symphony of activity, guests checking in, children laughing, bellhops hustling with carts stacked high. For a brief moment, he felt hope flicker inside him. Could this place offer a refuge from the chaos in his mind? It was then he noticed a young bellhop, clad in a crisp red uniform, effortlessly maneuvering through the crowd. The bellhop had a smile that could light up the darkest corners of this bustling space, and the way he greeted everyone with a respectful nod filled Daniel with a mixture of admiration and envy. He glanced down at his own worn clothes, the weight of recent failures suffocating him. With a heart pounding like a drum, Daniel took a deep breath. He could do this. After months of keeping quiet, of suffering in silence, he felt a strange pull to at least say something, to ask for help. He stepped forward, his feet feeling heavier with each step. "Excuse me," he began, his voice barely breaking through the ambient noise. The bellhop turned his attention, his gaze focused and kind. "Of course, sir." There was an eagerness to help, an openness that made Daniel feel oddly safe. "I'm not quite sure what I need," he admitted, the words spilling out before he could stop them. "I just feel." The bellhop's brow furrowed slightly, eyes flickering with understanding. "I see, sometimes asking for help is the bravest thing you can do." In that moment, Daniel's heart opened a little more. Here was someone willing to listen without judgment. He didn't want to spill his life story, but it felt good to share a piece of it. "I lost my job a few months ago," he said quietly. The bellhop nodded, his expression softening. "That's tough, but you're not alone in that. Life is full of ups and downs." Daniel looked up, surprised. "You?" The bellhop laughed, a warm, infectious sound that eased the tension in Daniel's chest. "I smile because I've learned that it's not about avoiding struggles." For a second, Daniel felt a weight lift. "Absolutely," the bellhop replied, a spark of conviction in his voice. "Every person helps shape us, even in our darkest moments." Daniel felt the words settle into him like seeds in fertile soil. He still felt lost, but the darkness didn't feel quite as overwhelming. The bellhop pointed toward the massive windows lining the lobby. "Why don't we grab a coffee? Let's talk a bit more." Before he knew it, Daniel found himself following the bellhop outside into the fresh air. They walked to a charming cafe just across the street. With every step, Daniel felt just a hint of hope bubbling up within him. He was opening up, shedding layers that had grown too heavy to carry. They found a small table on the patio, sheltered by a colorful umbrella. The bellhop ordered 2 coffees, the warmth of the sun mingling with the excitement of newfound camaraderie. As they settled into their seats with steaming mugs in hand, the conversation flowed effortlessly. "When I first started working here, I was scared, just like you," the bellhop shared, looking directly into Daniel's eyes. "I worried every day if I was good enough, if I'd ever get anywhere, but over time I found joy in every encounter, every conversation." Daniel leaned closer, intrigued. "By asking for help," the bellhop replied, his voice steady. "There were days when I'd go home feeling like a failure, but I reached out, spoke to my colleagues, learned from them." The bellhop's words wrapped around Daniel like a warm embrace, inspiring him. "You're right, I've been isolating myself since everything happened. Isolation can feel safe, but it also keeps us trapped in our own head." The bellhop gestured to the scene unfolding before them. Life is happening all around you. As he sipped his coffee, Daniel absorbed the bustling life around him, people chatting, laughing, living. He felt a pang of longing to be part of it once more. Daniel asked, a flicker of anxiety returning. Then you try again, the bellhop said, unwavering. It's all a part of the journey. Sometimes you'll meet people who can't meet you where you're at, and that's okay. But then there are those who will. Daniel nodded slowly, the bellhop's words resonating deep within him. He could almost visualize the walls he had built around himself, slowly cracking, letting light seep in. Maybe it was time to take a chance to step out from the shadows. I can't believe how much this chat has helped me, Daniel admitted, a smile creeping onto his face. It felt foreign yet so right. The bellhop grinned back with that same warm energy, as though he was pleased to see this newfound light in Daniel. And that's just the beginning. Feeling empowered, Daniel leaned back in his chair, heart racing at the possibilities. You know, I've always wanted to travel, to see the world beyond this city. The bellhop's excitement was palpable. What's stopping you from planning your first trip? The idea took root in Daniel's mind. Images of distant lands and new experiences danced in his imagination. I could start with a weekend getaway. Exactly, go breathe in that fresh air. You'll figure it out along the way. They spent the rest of the afternoon dreaming of travels, sharing laughter and stories. Daniel poured out his dreams and fears, and the bellhop shared his own aspirations, like becoming a hotel manager one day. As the sun began to dip below the skyline, painting the world in shades of gold and violet, Daniel felt a shift within himself. The darkness that had once felt suffocating now seemed like a distant memory, replaced by a rich tapestry of hope and courage. Thank you for this, Daniel said, looking directly into the bellhop's eyes. You've shown me that asking for help isn't a weakness. The bellhop's expression turned serious and heartfelt. Remember, my friend, every journey starts with a single step, and every step forward comes with some vulnerability. As they finished their coffees, the bellhop stood and saluted Daniel with an exaggerated flourish, breaking the moment with his infectious humor. Daniel laughed, warmth flooding through him. You definitely will, but first I think I should get back to the hotel. And as they walked back, the bellhop guided him at an easy pace, pointing out interesting sights and sharing tidbits about the city. He felt lighter, exhilarated by the possibilities ahead. At the entrance of the Crescent Hotel, the bellhop turned to Daniel, his smile as bright as ever. You did great today. Don't forget, you have within you everything you need. Daniel felt overwhelmed with gratitude, eyes glistening as he replied, thank you. And as the bellhop saluted him one last time before heading back through the doors, Daniel felt a surge of emotion. He had come to this place fearing the weight of his struggles, but now he stood there ready to face them. In that pivotal moment, with hope blooming in his heart, he realized he was no longer lost. He had found something precious: connection, courage, and the understanding that asking for help could transform loneliness into strength. Life was richer than he had ever imagined, brimming with opportunities just waiting to be seized. With a deep breath, Daniel stepped forward into a new chapter, ready to embrace the road ahead. The sun set behind the city, casting a golden halo around him, illuminating the limitless possibilities that lay just beyond the horizon. The future was no longer daunting. It was an adventure waiting to unfold. It was a rainy evening in the heart of the city, the kind of downpour that made the streets glisten like a mirror. Daniel stood hunched under the awning of the Crescent Hotel, raindrops splattering against the pavement at his feet. The warm light spilling from the lobby made the cold night outside feel even more oppressive. He glanced anxiously at the revolving door, steeling himself. He felt as if he were standing on the edge of a cliff, ready to leap into the unknown. He had lost track of the number of days he had been searching for a job, each rejection piling on top of the last like the heavy clouds overhead. Disappointment clung to him, thick and suffocating. As he fought back the urge to turn away, he took a deep breath and stepped inside. The lobby welcomed him with elegant decor, the marble floors, the grand chandelier soaking in the golden glow. Despite the beauty around him, a sense of dread gripped Daniel's heart. Life had felt heavy for far too long. He had come to this hotel not just for shelter, but in a desperate hope of finding answers, or maybe even a sliver of relief. A young bellhop rushed past him, carefully balancing 3 large bags stacked atop a wheeled cart. The bellhop was a whirlwind of energy, brimming with confidence, moving with purpose. Daniel couldn't help but notice the way he greeted each guest with a genuine smile and a respectful nod. It was as if he drew from an endless supply of positivity that Daniel wished he could tap into. As the bellhop finished unloading the bags into an elevator, Daniel's heart raced. Should he say something? Should he ask for help? The thought both terrified and thrilled him. He hesitated, watching the bellhop effortlessly interact with a family, making them laugh and feel at ease. With a sudden surge of courage, Daniel took a step forward. "Excuse me," he said, his voice catching. The bellhop turned, his expression shifting instantly to one of attention and warmth. "Yes, sir." His tone was soothing, as if he had all the time in the world just for Daniel. For a moment, Daniel's words got tangled. I need help," he stammered, feeling exposed. I'm looking for a place to stay, somewhere that's, absolutely, the bellhop's smile broadened, lighting up his face. As they walked toward the elevator, Daniel felt the weight of the day press down on him. The glossy walls reflected snippets of hope and despair. He said, wanting to explain but unsure how to articulate his feelings. Lost my job and I'm... The bellhop's demeanor shifted slightly, showing genuine compassion. I understand how that feels, you're not alone. Daniel's heart quickened. Here was someone who understood. He could feel that thread of connection starting to weave. The bellhop paused before replying, by embracing it, actually. When I started at this hotel, I was afraid. I stumbled often more than I care to admit. Daniel raised an eyebrow, intrigued. Especially the tough parts, they make the victories sweeter. The elevator slid open and they stepped inside. The young man pressed the button for the penthouse floor, and as it glided upward, Daniel felt the knot in his stomach loosen ever so slightly. Maybe he had taken the first step in the right direction. Once they reached the penthouse, the bellhop led Daniel into a sunny room filled with floor-to-ceiling windows. The view stretched endlessly, the city sparkled like a sea of stars below. Yet Daniel couldn't fully appreciate it, his mind was still tangled in worries. The bellhop's voice broke through his thoughts. Can I just... Daniel surprised himself with the request. The words rolled off his tongue more smoothly than he expected. The bellhop nodded and leaned against the door frame, his expression open and inviting. Of course, Daniel hesitated, but something about the bellhop's energy encouraged him. It's just, everything feels so chaotic. I lost my job and the stress is overwhelming. The chaos can drown us if we let it, the bellhop replied calmly. But it's okay to ask for help. Daniel felt another weight lift. He found himself opening up about his fears, the loneliness that had gnawed at him during sleepless nights. He even shared dreams he had put on hold, like traveling, exploring new places, connecting with new people. Those dreams don't disappear just because you hit a rough patch, the bellhop encouraged. Start small, set achievable goals. Daniel asked, the familiar dread creeping back in. The bellhop chuckled softly. Failure is just as much a part of life. It teaches resilience. You get back up, learn from it, and grow. Daniel absorbed the wisdom in his words. He thought about his past failures and the lessons they had taught him. Maybe this was what he needed, a reminder that he was capable of so much more than he believed. As their conversation deepened, Daniel glanced at the bellhop, whose enthusiasm seemed limitless. He looked so confident, a stark contrast to how Daniel felt. Absolutely. You know, I was once in a place where I felt completely adrift, much like you. Really. The curiosity bubbled up in Daniel, drawing him closer. I told myself I would never let fear dictate my choices again. I accepted every opportunity that came my way, no matter how small. Over time, those small steps added up. I envy that, Daniel said sincerely. The bellhop's enthusiasm was infectious. Start by talking to someone, anyone. Share your story, find common ground. It struck Daniel then as if a light bulb had gone off. He had spent so long wrapping himself in a cocoon of fear and isolation. Perhaps, just perhaps, vulnerability could lead him to connection, an opportunity to re-engage with the world. Maybe I will, he finally said, a smile emerging. It feels impossible, but the bellhop beamed back, a proud look on his face. That's the spirit, your journey starts now. Feeling a warmth spread through his chest, Daniel knew he was ready to take that leap. As the conversation wound down, he glanced at his watch, realizing how much time had slipped away. The rain had transformed into a light drizzle outside, and the city glowed with newfound life. I should probably get going, Daniel said, feeling both excited and nervous. The bellhop replied, his eyes sparkling. And if you ever need anything, don't hesitate to ask. As they stepped back into the lobby, the bellhop paused and stood tall, saluting Daniel as though he were sending him off on an epic adventure. Daniel couldn't help but laugh, that unexpected joy bubbling to the surface. The bellhop called out, the energy of his encouragement radiating through the air. Daniel returned the smile, feeling a newfound lightness in his heart. He stepped into the drizzling twilight, the city alive with potential. As he walked, he considered the bellhop's words. Maybe this was the dawn of something new. The weight that had once anchored him down now felt lighter, lifted by a simple act of asking for help. He was ready to move beyond his comfort zone, to take chances and to engage with the world once more. No more hesitation, no more living in the shadows. With each step, Daniel felt the pulse of the city around him, each beat pulling him closer to a life filled with possibilities. Life would no longer be about what he had lost, but about what he could gain. He took a deep breath of fresh air, the rain washing away remnants of yesterday. Daniel smiled, realizing that beneath every storm lay an opportunity for joy. He was ready to embrace whatever came next. The journey ahead was unknown, but it was his, and he would meet it with open arms. He stood at the entrance of the Crescent Hotel, his heart pounding like a drum. The world bustled around him, people laughing, checking in, and hailing cabs under the rain-soaked awning. Yet Daniel felt like he was invisible, a shadow amidst the bright lights and laughter. His soaked clothes clung to him uncomfortably, and the familiar weight of anxiety settled in his chest. Just days ago, he had found himself staring at the walls of his apartment, alone with his thoughts. He had lost his job unexpectedly, the one he had poured his soul into for years. The failure echoed in his mind, amplifying every moment of doubt that had previously lurked in silence. Now he was here seeking help, unsure of what that even meant. He realized he was clenching his phone tightly, its worn case barely protecting the fragile hope within him. With a deep breath, he stepped forward, pushing the door open and entering the lobby. The moment he crossed the threshold, he felt a mix of warmth and tension, as if he had crossed into another world entirely. Inside, the hotel glimmered. Ornate chandeliers hung from the ceiling, casting soft, golden light that shimmered off the polished marble floors. Guests rushed past, laughter and conversation punctuating the air. Yet the sounds felt muted to Daniel, drowning beneath the pulse of his anxiety. Then there was the bellhop, an energetic young man in a bright red uniform, zipping between guests like a pinball. His smile radiated warmth as he greeted each person with a nod, effortlessly lifting their spirits. Daniel envied that easy confidence. Could he ever feel that free again? As he watched the bellhop work, Daniel felt an unexpected tug. Was it desperation or just a flicker of courage? He shifted his weight from one foot to the other, contemplating. With his heart racing, he decided to approach the young man. "Excuse me," he started, the words tumbling out with unexpected urgency. The bellhop turned, his eyes locking onto Daniel's with a welcoming intensity. "Yes, sir." Daniel felt his throat tighten. Without missing a beat, the bellhop's smile widened. "Help is what I'm here for, let's take it one step at a time." Daniel hesitated, the weight of his vulnerability catching in his throat. "I lost my job a few days ago." The bellhop paused, his expression shifting to one of genuine empathy. "I'm really sorry to hear that, sir. Losing a job can feel like losing a part of yourself." Daniel was taken aback by the kindness in the young man's eyes. It was refreshing, unexpected. "How can you be so sure?" The bellhop raised an eyebrow as if considering his own journeys. "I felt heavy too once. When I started working here, I was scared. I didn't think I was good enough." Daniel felt a flicker of hope igniting within him. The sincerity in the bellhop's voice stirred something deep inside. The bellhop leaned closer, his eyes sparkling. "Asking for help requires strength, creates pathways to growth and connection." Their eyes connected, and for a heartbeat, Daniel felt a piece of the weight lift. The bellhop chuckled softly, that infectious warmth pulling Daniel in. "I found the power of community. I met people who shaped my journey, who guided me when I felt lost." As they spoke, the world around them faded, the bustling hotel quieting into a backdrop. Daniel began to feel a sense of relief, not just from the bellhop's words, but from the realization that he was truly heard. "I need that, I think." The bellhop said with enthusiasm, "What if I help you explore options?" Sweat beaded on Daniel's brow, not from heat, but from the fear of stepping into the unknown. "Rejection is part of life," the bellhop replied gently, yet firmly. "Every time we reach out, we open ourselves up to opportunity. If one door closes, there's always another one waiting." Daniel pondered over the words as they resonated deep within him. What if he could change how he viewed the world just as the bellhop had? What if he began to see rejection not as the end, but as a redirection towards something better? The bellhop nodded, sensing Daniel's contemplative mood. "Let's take that first step together," he said. "How about you and I grab coffee?" A rush of gratitude washed through Daniel, and with it came a sense of purpose he hadn't felt in so long. "Okay." They walked together to a quaint cafe a few blocks away, the sound of chatter and clinking cups enveloping them like a warm hug. As they settled into a cozy booth, Daniel couldn't shake the feeling he had stumbled into something significant. Over steaming mugs of coffee, the bellhop shared his journey, how he had started out in a different city, burdened by doubts. "I was lost too," he admitted, "but every time I faced a challenge, I chose to reach out instead of retreat into myself." Daniel listened as the bellhop's words flowed like a refreshing stream, washing away his fears. He asked, curiosity sharpening his tone. "It keeps me going when times get tough," the bellhop replied with a shrug. "When I smile at someone, it lightens both their day and mine. Kindness is contagious." Daniel raised an eyebrow. "Every day." You'd be amazed at how a simple smile can bridge gaps between strangers. As they spoke, Daniel felt the warmth of that truth settle in his heart. "I want to try that," he murmured. "Then do it," the bellhop encouraged, his eyes bright with excitement. "You don't need a grand plan, just take small steps. Smile at someone on the street, ask a coworker how their day's going." Feeling invigorated, Daniel left the cafe with a newfound sense of purpose. He and the bellhop chatted about upcoming events in the city, carving out a path for Daniel's reconnection to the world. With each step, he felt the old doubts begin to fade, leaving space for empowerment and possibility. As they approached the hotel, the bellhop turned to him, their faces illuminated in the glow of street lamps. "Think about what we discussed. I'm proud of you for taking this step today," the bellhop said, his tone sincere. Daniel's chest swelled with gratitude. "Thank you, I didn't expect to feel this way going into today." "Just remember," the bellhop said, smiling widely, "the journey doesn't have to be lonely. You can always ask for help, reach out, connect with those around you." As Daniel considered his words, a wave of appreciation washed over him. "You make a difference, you know." "That's what we can all do," the bellhop replied, shining with warmth. "Don't underestimate the impact you have." Daniel couldn't make sense of the weight that had lifted from his chest. The bellhop's insights had ignited a spark he thought he had lost forever. It was time to open himself up to the world, to embrace challenges and to connect with others. As they reached the hotel entrance, the bellhop came to a halt, turning to Daniel with a proud smile. "You did great today." Daniel nodded, feeling a smile spread across his face. The bellhop offered him a playful salute, drawing out the moment with a flourish. It was a simple gesture, but filled with encouragement. Daniel couldn't help but laugh in response. The bellhop said, stepping back into the warmth of the hotel. Daniel stood on the sidewalk, his heart racing in a way it hadn't in months. The chill of the night air faded away, replaced with a sense of possibility. The storm had passed. It felt like dawn breaking after an endless night. He took a deep breath, letting it fill his lungs with hope. It was a small step into a larger journey, but he felt ready to embrace it all. He could feel the city alive around him, teeming with opportunities and connections just waiting to be made. And this time he wouldn't shy away. Walking into the night, smiles seemed to cloud the road ahead. Every step forward was a step into the light, a step into the future, a future he was eager to explore. With that experience firmly etched in his mind, he knew he had the courage to face whatever came next. The world was not just a place of chaos, it was full of promise, and more importantly, he was no longer alone. He smiled, feeling a small shift inside him, a promise that he would reach out and connect. Life was waiting, and he was finally ready to embrace it. The rain poured down in heavy sheets, turning the streets of downtown into slick rivers. Daniel stood at the entrance of the Crescent Hotel, feeling like a ghost unseen and unheard. The hotel was alive with the hustle and bustle of city life, yet he felt painfully isolated. As people hurried past him, umbrellas bobbing above their heads, he took a hesitant step forward. He had few belongings, a frayed backpack slung over one shoulder, a pocket full of loose change, and more burdens than he could count. A recent job loss had driven him into a pit of despair, and now, in the middle of a storm, it felt as if he were drowning in doubt. He had come to this hotel seeking comfort, clarity, or perhaps just a brief escape, but instead felt the sharp edges of vulnerability tightening around him. With a heavy heart, Daniel pushed open the glass door, the warmth of the lobby washing over him like a long-forgotten embrace. The scent of polished wood and fresh flowers filled the air, and for just a moment he felt lighter. The lobby was grand, high ceilings adorned with intricate chandeliers, walls lined with portraits of smiling guests from decades past. Yet even with all this beauty, he felt more lost than ever. As he stood there surveying the scene, a young bellhop caught his eye. The bellhop was a whirlwind of energy, a bright red uniform contrasting sharply with the gray outside. His smile was welcoming, reaching his eyes, and he seemed to radiate warmth. Unlike Daniel, who felt trapped in a world of worries, the bellhop moved about the lobby with a confidence that made him feel alive. Daniel cleared his throat, feeling a lump rise. "Excuse me," he said, surprising himself with the firmness of his voice. The bellhop turned, his attention immediately focused on Daniel. "Yes, sir, I could use some help," Daniel admitted, feeling anxiety choke his words. "Absolutely," the bellhop's enthusiasm washed over him, calming his frayed nerves. "I lost my job a few days ago. I'm looking for a place to stay for a bit. Somewhere I can think, maybe recharge," Daniel said, the weight of his situation tumbling out. The bellhop's smile faltered for just a moment, replaced by a look of genuine empathy. "I'm really sorry to hear that. Losing a job is tough, and it can feel like everything is spiraling out of control." Daniel blinked, surprised by the young man's understanding. "Because I've been there too," the bellhop replied, crossing his arms. "There was a time in my life when I felt just as lost, a time when I didn't think I was good enough." A flicker of hope ignited within Daniel. "Of course," the bellhop said, unleashing a grin that lit up his entire face. "When I started working here, I also had doubts, but I found support in my coworkers and the guests I met." In that moment, Daniel felt seen for perhaps the first time in days. The weight of isolation began to lift. "I asked for it. It sounds simple, but it took a lot of courage. You have to put yourself out there, be willing to embrace the unknown," the bellhop said, his voice steady and reassuring. Daniel leaned against the elegant marble counter, feeling a strange mix of fear and excitement. "That's a possibility, yes," the bellhop admitted. "But what if they don't? What if you make a connection that changes everything?" As they stood there, Daniel realized he had spent too long hiding behind his worries. Each no he had received was a door closing, but perhaps he could learn to look for the ones that remained open. "Let's take a step together," the bellhop said, breaking into a broad smile that made Daniel feel oddly at ease. "How about we talk to someone here about options for you?" Feeling a mixture of apprehension and hope, Daniel nodded. "Okay." As they walked further into the lobby, the bellhop engaged Daniel in light conversation. They shared small anecdotes. Daniel learned that the bellhop had once worked at a coffee shop where he served a famous actor. His eyes sparkled with joy as he recounted the story, and Daniel couldn't help but smile back. The warmth of their shared laughter seemed to lift the weight of the gray clouds hanging over his head. The bellhop asked, curiosity evident in his voice. Daniel hesitated. I used to love hiking, exploring the outdoors. It felt freeing to be out in nature. But lately I've been too wrapped up in my own challenges, he admitted, surprised at his own honesty. Your passion for the outdoors is still with you, the bellhop assured him. You just have to reach for it again. Life is about balance, you know. They arrived at the front desk where a woman with a kind smile welcomed them. She asked, looking between Daniel and the bellhop, Hi, this is Daniel, and he's looking for a place to stay, something affordable. I thought it would be great to explore some options together, the bellhop explained, his enthusiasm infectious. The woman nodded, her face lighting up with understanding. Absolutely, we have a number of great deals on rooms right now. As she began typing away on the computer, Daniel felt a mix of emotions swell up inside him. The bellhop stood beside him, a warm presence that made him feel like he wasn't battling this on his own. The kindness of strangers sometimes felt like a life raft when the waves of despair threatened to drag him under. Here's what we have, the woman said, breaking through Daniel's thoughts. We can get you a room for a week at a discount, and if you need it longer, we can work something out. Daniel absorbed her words, allowing gratitude to seep in. Thank you so much, he said, his voice tinged with sincerity. It's my pleasure, she replied, her smile genuine. The bellhop leaned in closer to Daniel, nudging him playfully. See, I guess not, Daniel admitted, feeling lighter. Now you have a space to unwind and reevaluate. You can start fresh, the bellhop continued. They finalized the details, and soon Daniel held the key card to his room, a tangible symbol of hope and a new beginning. As they walked toward the elevator, Daniel felt a rush of exhilaration, hurrying to grab the cart with his belongings. Let me help you with that, the bellhop offered, taking the heavy bag from Daniel's shoulder. You're really kind, thank you, Daniel replied, his heart swelling with gratitude. When the doors of the elevator slid open, the bellhop pressed the button for the penthouse floor. As they ascended, Daniel could feel the tension releasing from his shoulders. The act of asking for help had led him to a haven he hadn't anticipated. Daniel said, suddenly breaking the silence. Of course, the bellhop replied, genuine curiosity dancing in his eyes. What keeps you smiling? The bellhop chuckled, his face lighting up. I genuinely believe a smile can change the course of someone's day. I've learned that being open and friendly helps not just others, but myself too. Daniel nodded, thinking about how he had wrapped himself in shades of gray. Maybe it was time to let the colors back in. When the elevator doors opened, they stepped out into a hallway that was quiet and serene. The bellhop led the way, chatting casually about his favorite spots in the city. Daniel listened intently, soaking it all in. Here we are, the bellhop said as they reached Daniel's room. He slid the key card into the lock and the door clicked open. Inside, the room was cozy, with a stunning view of the city skyline. Morning light spilled through the floor-to-ceiling windows, a sight that made Daniel's heart flutter with cautious optimism. The bellhop said, stepping inside with a bright smile, Now you've got space to breathe. Daniel felt a weight lift as he crossed the threshold. Thank you, he said again, feeling overwhelmed with gratitude. Just remember, every day is a new opportunity, the bellhop replied, stepping back toward the door. He straightened up, saluting Daniel playfully. It was a light-hearted gesture, yet it resonated deeply within him, a reminder of this important moment. Daniel laughed, feeling a warmth spread through him. I won't forget, he said, saluting back with a newfound buoyancy. As the bellhop left, Daniel closed the door behind him, the sound echoing in the quiet space. He stood for a moment, taking it all in. This room, this moment, it was a chapter in a story that was only just beginning. He pulled out his phone and sent a quick message to a friend he hadn't spoken to in ages, asking if they could meet up. His heart raced at the prospect of reaching out, of connecting again. He realized that even small steps could lead to something great. As he stood by the window looking out over the city that sparkled with life, he felt an undeniable sense of possibility. The storms might come and go, but he was learning that asking for help was a bridge to healing, a pathway back to connection. Daniel smiled as he turned from the window, feeling fortified and ready for whatever lay ahead. The weight of the past was still there, but now it felt manageable. With each new day, he would face the world confidently, knowing that reaching out was never a sign of weakness, but rather a powerful step toward growth. The journey had just begun, but Daniel was ready to embrace it. And maybe, just maybe, he could become a beacon for someone else who felt lost, someone who needed a little kindness and understanding. With that thought, he picked up his backpack and opened the door, stepping back into a world filled with endless possibilities. The bellhop's salute echoed in his mind as he took those first steps out into the city he was ready to rediscover. Daniel stood at the entrance of the Crescent Hotel, rain pouring down like a curtain of despair. As the heavy droplets splashed against the pavement, he felt the weight of the world pressing down on him. Life had not been kind lately. Just last week, he had been let go from his job, a sudden dismissal that sent his heart spiraling into doubt and darkness. Now he found himself standing in a place of luxury, feeling like an imposter amid people who seemed to radiate confidence and joy. He hesitated for a moment, clutching his backpack tightly. Inside were the remnants of his previous life, a worn-out laptop, a few crumpled clothes, and some scattered notes. As he reluctantly stepped through the glass doors, the warmth of the lobby enveloped him. The grand chandelier overhead sparkled like 1,000 tiny stars, making the marble floors shine. Yet Daniel felt invisible in this vibrant space, as if he were standing in a world meant for someone else. The lobby was alive with activity. Guests were laughing, families were checking in, and bellhops dashed about, colorful uniforms contrasting sharply with the muted gray outside. One bellhop in particular caught his eye. He moved with ease, balancing luggage with one hand while greeting guests with a genuine smile that seemed to light up the entire room. There was something infectious about his energy, something that made Daniel yearn to bask in that warmth, even just for a moment. But each step Daniel took felt like a leap into a chasm of uncertainty. His heart raced as if it knew there was something he needed to do, yet his mind fought back with doubt and fear. What would happen if he reached out? Would he be met with scorn or worse, indifference? As he watched the bellhop expertly maneuver through the crowd, he felt a flicker of courage bubbling up from within. Maybe it was time to ask for help. It had been too long since he made a concerted effort to connect with anyone other than himself. "Excuse me," he finally said, his voice shakier than he intended as he made his way toward the bellhop. The young man turned, his bright smile unwavering as he locked eyes with Daniel. "Yes, sir. I'm looking for a place to stay," Daniel admitted, his heart thumping in his chest. "Something affordable." The bellhop's smile softened, replaced with a look of genuine concern. "I'm really sorry to hear that," he said. "It can be tough, but you're not alone." Daniel swallowed hard, feeling a strange mix of vulnerability and relief. "You really think so?" "Absolutely," the bellhop said, his confidence brightening the dark corner of Daniel's mind. "I've been in tough spots too. Asking for help is often the first step to finding clarity." Daniel pressed, intrigued. "Like connections," the bellhop replied without hesitation. "When I started working here, I also felt lost, but I began to engage with people around me, guests, coworkers." Daniel couldn't help but feel a glimmer of hope. "The fear never fully goes away," the bellhop said, leaning against the counter as if sharing a secret. "But I focus on what's in front of me, what I can control. Every smile, every conversation is a chance to improve things." The sheer kindness of this young stranger touched something deep inside Daniel. That would be really helpful. They made their way to the front desk, where a friendly woman with warm eyes greeted them. "Hello." Her smile made Daniel feel at ease, as if he had known her forever despite just meeting. "This is Daniel," the bellhop introduced him. The woman nodded, her expression turning serious with understanding. "Of course, we can arrange something." He hesitated, his mouth suddenly dry. "I'm not sure." "Let's find the best option within your means," she assured him, her fingers dancing over the keyboard. The sound of clacking keys matched the racing of Daniel's heart as he felt both nervous and strangely hopeful. "Here's what I can offer," the woman said after a moment, glancing up at him. "We have a room with a view available for a good rate." "Really? That sounds amazing," Daniel replied, feeling a warmth spread through him. "It's important to have a comfortable space, especially during tough times," she added. The bellhop stood beside Daniel, radiating support as they were immersed in logistics around room details. Daniel felt the knot of anxiety start to unravel as the reality of having a safe haven began to take shape. "See," the bellhop said with a playful nudge once they wrapped up the arrangements. "I guess not," Daniel chuckled, his heart rate calming. "Just remember, it's okay to lean on others when you're struggling," the bellhop said, his voice earnest. Once they finalized the details and Daniel held the key card in hand, he felt a tangible sense of relief wash over him. This was more than just a room, it was a lifeline. As they walked toward the elevator, the bellhop's cheerful chatter filled the air with positivity, easing the tension that had wrapped around Daniel's heart. The bellhop asked casually, making small talk. Daniel paused, surprised at the question. "Honestly, I used to love hiking and being outdoors. It made me feel alive, but everything's felt so heavy lately. Getting back to what you love can help lift that weight," the bellhop suggested. "There are some gorgeous trails nearby." "Yeah, maybe," Daniel replied, contemplating the idea. The elevator door slid open smoothly, and the bellhop gestured for Daniel to step in first. Sometimes the greatest shifts come from the smallest actions. Inside the elevator, Daniel reflected on the bellhop's words. As they ascended to the penthouse floor, he let his mind wander to things he enjoyed: the smell of fresh pine, the quiet of the woods, and the thrill of reaching a mountain summit. He felt a flicker of excitement warming him from within. When they reached Daniel's room, the bellhop stepped inside with him, setting down his backpack gently. He announced with a flourish. The room was cozy and inviting. Large windows revealed a stunning view of the city skyline, with twinkling lights stretching out like stars in the night sky. For the first time in weeks, Daniel felt a genuine smile spread across his face. "Wow, this is," he exclaimed, taking a moment to absorb the beauty around him. "It's all yours, at least for a while," the bellhop said with a hint of pride in his voice. Daniel looked at him, gratitude welling up inside. "Thank you for everything, truly." "Just trying to be a good friend," the bellhop replied with a wink, "and remember, you've got this." With a playful salute, he turned to leave but paused on the threshold. "And don't forget to smile." As the door clicked shut behind him, Daniel stood alone in the room, a rush of emotions flooding through him. He had taken the first step, and it had led him to this moment, a moment of possibility, hope, and perhaps a fresh start. He moved toward the window, gazing out at the city that felt like a giant puzzle waiting to be pieced together. Daniel realized that he had not only found a place to rest, but also a renewed sense of purpose. The weight of the past still lingered, but now it felt manageable, an obstacle he could learn to navigate. He took a deep breath, letting it fill his lungs as he envisioned his next steps. He pulled out his phone and sent a quick text to a friend he hadn't spoken to in weeks, asking if they wanted to meet up. It felt exhilarating, like jumping off a cliff and knowing there was water below to catch him. That evening, as he settled into his new space, Daniel reflected on all that had unfolded. The bellhop's words lingered in his mind. Every encounter mattered, every smile could ignite change. Here in this hotel room, he was reminded that he was still capable of connection, even in the depths of despair. His phone buzzed, snapping him from his thoughts. It was a response from his friend, expressing excitement and suggesting a time to catch up. Daniel smiled, realizing how easy it could be to reconnect. With each passing moment, he felt stronger, more resilient. The journey ahead was still uncertain, but instead of fear, he felt anticipation. As he looked out at the twinkling city lights, he felt as if possibilities stretched out before him like the horizon, endless and inviting. Before bedtime, Daniel made a plan for tomorrow. He would explore the city, maybe even find a hiking trail. He would seek out opportunities, embrace new connections, and all the while, he would remember the kindness that had been shown to him today. With a heart full of newfound hope, he drifted into a serene sleep, dreaming not of lost chances, but of bright tomorrows. The storm clouds might have rolled into his life, but now he had learned that even through the rain, he could find shelter, community, and maybe even joy. As he drifted off into slumber, he couldn't shake the image of the bellhop's cheerful salute, a gesture that had become a gentle reminder that kindness could change everything. Daniel was ready to embrace life again with patience, determination, and perhaps a smile that would carry him into the future. Tomorrow was a new day, and for the first time in a long while, he felt ready to greet it with open arms. Daniel stood at the entrance of the Crescent Hotel, rain pouring down in relentless sheets, blurring the world outside. It felt as if the sky was echoing his turbulence, each drop a reminder of the emotional storm within him. Just days ago, he had been let go from his job, a swift and unexpected severance that left him grappling with uncertainty. Now, as he surveyed the bustling lobby, filled with laughter and conversation, he wondered if he was brave enough to step inside. He hesitated, his heart racing. With a heavy backpack slung over one shoulder, he felt weighed down by the burdens of disappointment and despair. But something, perhaps the flickering lights or the bright flowers in the lobby, called to him, inviting him to take that first step. Finally, Daniel pushed open the door. Warm air enveloped him, lifting the chill of the rain as he stepped onto the polished marble floor. The lobby was a beautiful blend of modern elegance and classic charm, filled with guests checking in, families laughing, and bellhops darting about, each one a swirl of color against the backdrop of a rainy day. One bellhop stood out amongst the rest. He was young, perhaps in his early 20s, with an infectious smile that lit up his face. His red uniform clung smartly to him, and he moved with an ease that hinted at both confidence and friendliness. He greeted every guest with a nod, each interaction dripping with sincerity, even with his eyes, which twinkled with warmth. Caught in the moment, Daniel watched as the bellhop playfully balanced a heavy suitcase on one shoulder, expertly guiding a family toward the elevator. He felt a mix of admiration and envy. This young man exuded energy and positivity, qualities Daniel had struggled to find in himself lately. Taking a deep breath, Daniel approached. The thought of asking for help sent a tremor through him. What if he was dismissed? What if his struggles were met with indifference? Yet the bellhop's smile made him feel like he could take a chance. "Excuse me," Daniel started, his voice trembling slightly. The bellhop turned, his warm gaze locking onto Daniel's. "Yes, sir, I was wondering if you could help me find a place to stay," Daniel said, feeling the words slip out. The bright smile faltered for just a moment, replaced by genuine concern. "I'm really sorry to hear that. Losing a job can feel like losing a part of yourself." A weight lifted from Daniel's shoulders, lightening the storm cloud that had been hovering over him. "It's just been really hard." His voice trailed off. "Finding good help when things get tough is important," the bellhop replied, his tone reassuring. "I've been there before." Daniel felt his curiosity spark. The bellhop chuckled softly, shaking his head. "I didn't do it alone. I learned to reach out and ask for help." Daniel took a deep breath. The bellhop's words resonated deep within him, stirring up something hopeful. "Let's talk to my manager." He gestured toward the front desk, where a friendly woman was checking in guests. "You'll see." Feeling a mixture of trepidation and gratitude, Daniel followed the bellhop to the desk. As they approached, the manager looked up with a warm smile. "Welcome, this is Daniel." The bellhop's enthusiasm was infectious, and Daniel felt nervous energy igniting within him. Absolutely, let's see what we can do, the manager replied, immediately turning her attention to her computer. His stomach twisted at the question. I'm not sure. That's perfectly fine, the manager said, her fingers flying over the keyboard. As Daniel stood there waiting, he could feel the weight of the world pressing down again. Would he even be able to afford a room? The uncertainty began to creep back in, but the bellhop's steady presence soothed him, grounding him in the moment. The bellhop whispered, grinning at Daniel. I hope so, Daniel replied, feeling the flicker of hope ignite again. After a moment, the manager looked up with a smile. I have a room available at a great rate. It has a lovely view, too. Daniel felt a weight lift. Yes, that sounds perfect. Let me get the details finalized, she said with a kind smile, and Daniel couldn't help but breathe a sigh of relief. As they wrapped up the arrangements, Daniel felt a sense of empowerment. It wasn't just about finding a room, it was about taking control and beginning to navigate the chaos of his life. When they finished, he looked at the bellhop, who was beaming with pride. You did it. You asked for help, and look where it got you. Thank you for encouraging me, Daniel said, his voice growing steadier. The bellhop leaned in closer. Remember, it's okay to lean on others. Once they arrived at Daniel's new room, he felt a rush of excitement, mingling with disbelief. The door swung open to reveal a space filled with soft light, the city skyline peeking through the large window. Wow, he murmured, taking in the view. It's all yours, the bellhop announced with a flourish, clearly enjoying Daniel's reaction. And if you need anything else, don't hesitate to call me. Daniel could hardly believe how far he had come in such a short time. Just that morning he had felt lost, but here he was, standing in a room with a view, feeling a flicker of hope reigniting inside him. Thanks again, Daniel said, feeling gratitude swell within him. Just doing my job and being a good friend, the bellhop replied, his smile unwavering. And remember, keep reaching out. As the bellhop prepared to leave, he paused at the door and turned back to Daniel. He raised his arms dramatically, flashing a big smile. Remember to smile, Daniel couldn't help but laugh, nodding in agreement. The bellhop raised his hand in a playful salute, leaving Daniel feeling buoyed by the experience. The warmth of the connection lingered long after the bellhop walked out, closing the door behind him. Alone in the quiet of his new room, Daniel looked around and felt an unexpected sense of clarity. He had taken one small step, and it had led him to a much-needed refuge and the space to collect himself. While the storm inside him wasn't gone, he now had the strength and courage to face it. Sinking onto the plush bed, he pulled out his phone. Maybe it was time to reconnect with friends he hadn't spoken to in a while. Each message was a tiny step toward rebuilding his world, and with each tap of his fingers, he felt the urge to reach out, growing stronger. That evening, he set an intention for the next day, a hike to explore the local trails, a way to reconnect with nature and rediscover what brought him joy. The bellhop had been right. Taking small steps was the key to transformation. With the beauty of the city before him, Daniel felt a renewed sense of purpose blossoming. As the days went by, Daniel made it a point to meet new people, establish connections, and continue reaching out for help when he needed it. He even started attending community events at the hotel, where the bellhop often worked. Each interaction lifted his spirits and reminded him that he wasn't alone. One afternoon, as he wandered through a local park, he caught sight of the bellhop sitting on a bench during a break. With that same joyful smile, the young man waved him over. Hey, I'm trying to soak it all in, Daniel replied, sitting beside him. Thank you for everything. That's what it's all about, the bellhop said, resting his hands behind his head. You're doing great. Remember, life is just a series of connections. As they chatted, an easy camaraderie developed, laughter spilling freely between them. Daniel felt grateful for this friendship. It was a reminder of how powerful reaching out could be. Before he knew it, they were making plans, hiking together over the weekend, another chance to explore and connect. As they parted ways that day, Daniel felt empowered and hopeful, his world once again filled with possibilities. Weeks turned into months, and Daniel continued to build on the support system he had created. He found a job opportunity, but more importantly, he formed meaningful relationships, connections that replenished his spirit. Each smile he shared echoed the bellhop's wisdom, proving that kindness rippled outward like a wave, touching everything in its path. One evening, standing at the edge of a beautiful hiking trail, Daniel took a moment to reflect. The view stretched before him, a canvas of greens and blues painted with the warm hues of sunset. He felt alive and renewed, like he had finally found his place in the world. The struggles might still be there, but now they were just part of a larger journey, each one a stepping stone to growth. Through it all, he continued to carry with him that moment in the hotel lobby, standing in vulnerability, asking for help, and the warmth of the bellhop's smile that had set everything in motion. It reminded him of the importance of connection and the strength found in embracing vulnerability. As he stood there, the sun dipping below the horizon, he thought of the bellhop and how one simple conversation had changed the course of his life. He decided then and there that he would pay it forward, becoming a beacon of hope for someone else, just as the bellhop had been for him. On his way back down the trail, Daniel couldn't help but smile. The journey was ongoing. Each encounter, each conversation, each shared smile was a part of the fabric of life, rich, intricate, and wonderfully connected. Tomorrow held promise and adventure, and he welcomed it all with open arms. Today had taught him to embrace vulnerability, and that was a lesson that would stay with him forever. Daniel was ready to face whatever came next, not just for himself, but for everyone who might need a hand. And as he walked home, he remembered the bellhop salute, smiling into the sunset, knowing that he had finally found his way back. The rain poured relentlessly as Daniel stepped off the bus, his heart a cacophony of uncertainty. The sound of tires splashing through puddles echoed his inner turmoil. Just days ago, he had lost his job in a chaotic round of layoffs, a severance he hadn't seen coming. Now his plans felt like shards of glass, scattered and sharp around him. He tucked his chin into his damp collar and looked up at the towering Crescent Hotel, its glowing facade a beacon against the stormy sky. The opulence of the place felt mocking as he stood there, an outsider grappling with the weight of his circumstances. A voice within him urged him to turn away, but another voice, softer yet insistent, pushed him forward. As he crossed the threshold, warmth enveloped him like a forgotten embrace. The lobby was alive, buzzing with laughter and the clattering of luggage. Daniel looked around, mesmerized by the grand chandelier hanging overhead, droplets from the outside world clinging to his hair like memories he wanted to shake off. His gaze shifted to a young bellhop navigating through the crowd, balancing a towering stack of luggage with ease. The bellhop wore a bright red uniform, and his smile seemed to light up the room. He engaged every guest with a cheerful greeting, his energy infectious. Daniel felt a twinge of envy. He wanted to capture even a fraction of that lightness. He watched as the bellhop approached a family, a crisp salute and a friendly quip drawing laughter from the children. It was a small moment, but it sparked something in Daniel. Maybe he too could ask for help, maybe he could share his burden with someone who understood. With his heart pounding, Daniel took a tentative step forward, the echo of his shoes muted by the plush carpet. "Excuse me," he said, nervously clearing his throat as the bellhop turned toward him. The bellhop's smile never faltered as he looked into Daniel's eyes. "Of course, I'm looking for a place to stay," Daniel admitted, the words tumbling out like stones from a heavy sack. "I lost my job a few days ago," and the bellhop's demeanor shifted subtly, concern threading through his friendly facade. "That's tough, man. I'm really sorry to hear it." He paused, weighing his words. "I've been there myself." Daniel's heart sank. The bellhop leaned slightly closer, his eyes full of understanding. "That's the trick, my friend. You have to be willing to take that leap." He gestured toward the front desk, where a woman in a professional blazer was busy typing away. "Let's talk to my manager." Daniel felt a flicker of hope ignite within him as they approached the desk. Watching the bellhop's confident stride, he marveled at the strength he felt radiating from this young man. Maybe this time things could be different. Once they reached the desk, the manager looked up, her expression instantly warm. "Hello, this is Daniel," the bellhop introduced him, his tone full of encouragement. The manager offered a sympathetic smile. "Of course, I'd be happy to help." "No idea," Daniel admitted, his voice faltering slightly. "Let's find you something comfortable," she assured him, tapping on her computer. Daniel watched her fingers fly across the keyboard, his heart racing as he awaited her response. "Here we go," she said after a moment. "We have a cozy room available at a great rate." "That sounds perfect," Daniel said, relief washing over him like the fading rain outside. With a few more keystrokes, they finalized the details. Daniel picked up the keycard, a physical representation of his fresh start, and felt a surge of gratitude. This was more than just a room, it was a lifeline. As they turned to head to the elevator, the bellhop grinned playfully. "See, not too scary after all." "I guess you're right," Daniel replied, feeling lighter. "Just doing my job," the bellhop said, shrugging modestly. "But remember, it's okay to lean on others during tough times." They stepped into the elevator, Daniel letting the bellhop's words sink in. As they ascended, he glanced into the mirror on the wall and saw a man who looked both lost and hopeful, two sides of the same coin. After exiting on the penthouse floor, Daniel found himself in a beautifully appointed room with floor-to-ceiling windows. The view took his breath away. He could see the entire city skyline spread out before him, even catching a glimpse of the distant mountains peeking through the clouds. "Wow," he breathed. The bellhop exclaimed, his smile wider than ever. "And if you need anything, don't hesitate to call me." Entranced by the view, Daniel barely noticed when the bellhop began to leave. Just before he stepped out, he paused and glanced back, a playful sparkle in his eye. "Oh, and don't forget, smile more." Just like that, he saluted Daniel with a quick flourish. Daniel laughed, warmth flooding through him at the gesture. As the door clicked shut, Daniel felt a mix of emotions wash over him: relief, gratitude, and a whisper of hope. In less than an hour, he had opened up to a stranger and found support when he had least expected it. The bellhop had reminded him that kindness still existed, even in the chaos of life. For the first time in weeks, he felt a sense of possibility ignite within him. With a renewed spirit, he pulled out his laptop, ready to search for job openings and explore local opportunities. But as he settled into his temporary home, he couldn't shake the urge to reach out to someone he hadn't spoken to in a long time. Picking up his phone, he sent a quick message to an old friend. "Hey, it's been a while." Sending the message felt liberating, like tossing a lifeline into turbulent seas, hoping that someone would grab hold. As he finished typing, he glanced out the window again, the city unfolding beneath him. The evening glow painted the skyline, and Daniel couldn't help but wonder what adventures awaited him. Things were starting to change, and maybe, just maybe, he could reclaim the joy he once felt. The silence of the room wrapped around him as he began to write down a list of goals, a small plan to take charge of his life again. He envisioned reaching out for connections, exploring new opportunities, and stepping back into the world he had been so afraid to face. Suddenly, his phone buzzed, interrupting his thoughts. It was a response from his friend, filled with excitement about meeting up. "Yes, let's grab some coffee." Just as he read the message, a knock on the door startled him. Daniel's heart raced. It was too soon for the bellhop to return, wasn't it? He hesitated, wondering if he should open the door. What if it was someone with bad news? Taking a deep breath, he made his way to the door, his hand trembling slightly on the doorknob. With a swift turn, he opened it wide, only to find a hotel employee standing there holding a small package. "Excuse me, sir, this is for you," the employee said, gesturing to the parcel. Daniel frowned, confused. He hadn't ordered anything. "Yes, it arrived earlier today." The employee handed him the package, a curious look in his eyes. As the door clicked shut, Daniel held the box in his hands, uncertainty gnawing at him. He had no idea what was inside. Cautiously, he opened it, revealing a carefully wrapped item nestled inside layers of crinkled paper. With each peel, his heart raced faster. Finally, he uncovered a small framed photo. It was old, frayed at the edges, but instantly recognizable. It was a picture of him and his mother on a hiking trip when he was a child. It brought back a flood of memories, laughter, and joy. But it was only when he turned the frame over that the thrill of nostalgia turned into something darker. There, written in hastily scrawled handwriting, was a note that sent chills down his spine. "I'm watching you." Daniel dropped the frame, his heart racing with a blend of fear and confusion. Who sent this? Was someone tracking him? Panic surged in his chest, clawing at his rational mind. He felt as though the walls of his newfound refuge were closing in around him. He picked the frame back up, studying it closely. His emotions were a chaotic storm inside him, battling between fear and the comfort of memories long tucked away. He glanced back toward the door, feeling an overwhelming sense of vulnerability wash over him. And that's when the knock came again. This time he hesitated, his instincts screaming at him to hide. What did this all mean? Every moment so carefully curated now felt fragile, like glass about to shatter. Taking a breath, he steeled himself and stepped toward the door. The unknown awaited him on the other side, but so did the chance for clarity, the opportunity to take control, to discover who or what was causing this renewed anxiety. With a trembling hand, he opened the door once more, ready to face whatever lay ahead. Would it be another path toward healing or a confrontation with his past? The moment hung like a fragile thread between hope and fear, waiting to snap in either direction. The air thickened with tension as he prepared to step into the unknown once again.